It's amazing, Nitin. And if I can just process that point that you're making across, let's say, all the large and medium enterprises and the chief execs who run it, I think again, a very large proportion of them would be trapped in that A equal to R, like that bracket, and not able to break through and negotiate constantly within that. One time you win, the one time the other fellow would win over a period of, many years. It'll average out depending on who wins.
One of my boss, Harish Manwani, I spoke,
Yeah,
he's been my boss for the longest period of time. One of the lines he had said to me, he said, Nitin, never set your goal with your head. I said, what does that mean? Set your goal with your heart. Set your goal on something that will make you feel proud. Because when you set your goal with the head, it will first tell you 10 whispers why this can't happen, that can't happen, this is the issue, that is the issue. Set your goal with your heart, which will make you proud. Then use your considerable intellect to find the one way by which it can happen, rather than the 10 ways why it could not happen. It's a very, very different mindset.
Absolutely.
And that then it's fun. And many people ask me this A greater than R and this, but how do you distinguish? You surely can't take goals. I'm saying there's a massive difference between responsible financial planning, which you must do, because you can't do stupid financial planning with this sort of mindset. You must do that. But our behaviors cannot be based on that response, that safe number, or our behaviors have to be based on trying to break through, trying to get there. And that's what this helps you achieve. So that was the first thought.
And Nitin, if I can just pause, just go into one more area and take, if I reflect on the startup ecosystem,
They're exactly like this.
The point that you're making, I think whether some founders or CEOs do it deliberately or not, the ones who may be doing it deliberately are great. But as a concept, as a model itself, if A is not dramatically higher than R, there is no chance of moving from 0 to 1.
That is exactly right. Because why? Because if A is equal to R, a startup or a founder has modest resources compared to the incumbents.
Absolutely.
How will the person ever win?
Yeah.
He can never win, and he can never break through if A is equal to R. The only way that if he can stretch that R in ways that nobody else can.
Absolutely. And Nitin, impact of that on high performers. I'm just stretching that a little bit. That the reason that brilliant performers are attracted to that stretch of A significantly higher than R is because if you're going towards A equal to R, all that you are is a part of a conveyor belt, the effective execution, as you call it. So the two ecosystem will attract the type of people who are made for that ecosystem.
That's correct. But there is one big but that I will add. If the conclusion is that all you need to do is to create a mismatch between ambition and resource, and
stupid,
exceptional outcomes will happen, is stupid, completely stupid. You said it. Yeah? Obviously not. There were two other conditions which I concluded need to be present, which happened to be present, not by grand design. Not by grand design.
Okay.
It happened to be present.
Right.
Which allowed this to happen.
Right.
What were the two? Right. The first is, people need to want it. That outcome that you're going after, people must want that outcome. It can't be pushed down from the top. Now, for people to want that outcome, you need something that touches them.
Right.
You need a compelling vision, purpose, whatever term that you use. Yeah. And a compelling vision, when I talk about or a purpose, is not the same as a slogan in a conference, which generates a lot of rah-rah, excitement, etc. All of that happens. Because the half-life of that is that weekend or 1 week. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So I said, what is it that was true at that moment? And what should a good vision, that compelling vision,
look like?
Then I concluded it must meet two criteria. It, of course, must be collectively inspiring, but it must be individually relatable. Every single person in the organization must see meaning. Their role gives meaning to what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that brought me to the second insight. You see, all of us are in search of meaning.
Yeah.
Meaning in life, meaning at work, meaning in our relationships, meaning in. If you find a way by which there is some vision, there is a cause, there is what you're chasing, which people see meaning in, do you think they will let it go?
Absolutely not.
Because then work is no longer just work.
Yeah.
They feel good about who they are,
Yeah.
their contribution to that setting.
Yeah.
Because they're otherwise just coming here and it's just a transactional outcome. Now you've given them meaning.
Yeah.
And that is more powerful than you imagine. When that happens, you don't have to keep drumming that the people will not let that go. Yeah. And then you get something discretionary.
Absolutely.
So that was the second condition which happened to be there. There were reasons for it. I hadn't
But you
no
nurtured
credit.
it
I
nonetheless.
was no in hindsight, post that event, I'm now saying why did that happen? That existed.
Mm.
And there was a third reason it exists, third condition which needs to be true. People must trust the leader. They must sense that the leader is as invested in this as they are. They must feel that it is a safe place.
Mm.
That after we are talking of 500 and we get to 80, 90,000 and he will say you guys are all failures.
Yeah.
If that's how people feel, nobody will even take
They
it.
won't take a chance.
No one will take a chance. So the trick in all of this was every time when we go to 70, 80, we have to make people feel good about it. Good, great stuff. But you know what? Maybe we can do more.
Mm.
And people have to walk out wanting to say, actually, maybe I can. And they want to get there. So the third bit is you have to have that trust, you have to have a little bit of license, and you have to believe. So I think the only contribution I had no other contribution, but probably over 20 years of my being in the company, if there was a little bit of belief, trust, which they had, was a bit in that space. Yeah. And the second bit is they saw me as emotionally committed and vested to this outcome
As
as any of them.
as
Probably
much
more.
as you were expecting them to be.
Probably more.
Yeah, probably more.
And so this was not me sitting on a pedestal talking about it, but me,
Yeah.
I'm not rolled up my sleeve, I'm not engaged.
Yeah.
I was obsessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were in there.
Every day, every night, every day, it was maniacal. It was maniacal.
Amazing.
So
And they saw you in the arena along
and
with them.
and there would be people, we were to go as stories people would tell. It was a problem going out with Nitin in the market because he'll suddenly cross the road and see one small shop. Why aren't we in this store? Why aren't we in this store? Have we got that? Take me into this lane. I knew fully well that small store is not going to make a difference to this. But if you are not committed to it, there is no reason anyone else is going to be committed to that outcome. Now, all of this in hindsight. So I said, so my conclusion then was that really, if these are the three conditions, then the only role of a leader has to be somehow to find a way to have these three things coexist.
Yeah.
Not one or the other, coexist. And so what are those? First, you have to find a vision
Yeah.
which touches people. You don't have to create it yourself. You can co-create it. You can get it done. It can come bottom up, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You have to get that people want it,
Yeah.
not because you are shoving it down their throat.
Yeah.
They have to see meaning and relevance and role for them. They must feel proud when that happens. That's first.
Yeah.
Second, psychological safety
Yeah.
and trust. And
Yeah.
third, it is your obligation to allow people to do heroic things. And for that, a mismatch between ambition and resource is a necessary condition to have.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's and so foundational. And Nitin, the last bit that you articulate, just the responsibility of a leader to continuously think about how do I create the next phase of a substantially higher than R. The vision that you're talking about, which is collectively inspiring,
Individually,
but
really.
individually relatable, along with they feeling safe to take a shot at it. And I'm assuming some of that would also mean and go down to areas like their incentives for a sales guy, rewards,
A little bit of that, but it is important. I'm not saying it's not
but it's
important.
not.
But we underestimate
Yeah.
the most under-leveraged
Hmm.
aspect in business is pride.
Go a little deeper.
How do you make people feel?
Hmm.
See, giving someone moment, that's a transaction.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can pay people poorly and you don't have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not what actually. So you have to do that. But what comes for free when you touch people? And it's invaluable.
Yeah.
Make people, they must feel proud about doing what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No.
and how often in an organizational context do you feel like that? How many companies can make you feel like that? How many jobs can make you feel like that? How many tasks can make you feel like that? So when you feel like that, will you want to let it go?
Absolutely not. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But by the way, I make it sound so all of this happened. I repeat once again that it wasn't grand engineering. This is understanding after the event what happened. But articulating it in this way made me realize going forward, I must try and work towards trying to create situations when these three coexist.
Yeah. And Nitin, I must say that you've been extremely humble in saying that some of the ingredients were present. But as a like listener, I feel that most organization in some random form would have some of these ingredients present. Either by force, for example, resources would have dwindled. If you're going through a crisis, your R would automatically come down, whether you like it or you don't like it. But the manner in which you've been able to articulate it, for somebody to recognize that I need these three, of which, what do I have and what do I need to create? Isn't it?
Yes and no. I once again repeat, this articulation did not happen through 2010, 11, 12, 13 when I was doing it.
Yeah, okay.
I can get
But now that you see it,
after that.
yeah,
You see, and therefore, it was important for me to say what was true.
yeah,
Now, for
Yeah.
example, when I say what touched people, why did it touch people? I may not have engineered it with this thought. Yeah. So why did that seemingly, I'm saying it's, well, if I was to mention that line, I would say, what's the big deal?
yeah, yeah.
But that what we were going after has to be seen in the context of that organization and why it touched people.
Yeah.
So we had 5 or 6 or 7 years where our performance was modest.
Right.
Yeah, as a company. From markets were changing, environment was changing, our performance was modest. There is a new person out there. And something that we talked about as a team, which called out a goal which people said, if we get there, it will make us feel special again.
Yeah.
We all, everyone in this company is a very proud person. We all believe that we are not mediocre. We'd like to believe we are amongst the best that there is. But you can't call yourself the best set of people and deliver mediocre results.
Absolutely.
And our results were somewhat mediocre over a period of time.
Yeah.
And somehow, in what we were trying to do, people saw a chance to get that mojo back. And they desperately wanted that back because were losing some of it for a while. That's why they were so keen. कि ये करना है, ये छोड़ना नहीं है.
Yeah.
Because it restored their belief and the sense of pride in themselves. Now, all of this is post facto. I'm now telling you this. But the understanding of all of this then needs to say, as you think forward, analyze your situation, what can you do to create these situations where these three simon? And I would say that over the next 10 years, when I was there were many situations I was around. I worked hard. Even after knowing all of this, my strike rate is not great, was not great. There were a few times things worked, and again, magical outcomes we saw. But many times it didn't work in that manner because all three didn't happen at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
One or two might be there, but not the third.
Yeah.
And then you don't get the same outcome.
Yeah.
And therefore, I keep saying, it's almost been over the last 10, 15 years, my personal growth journey to see how can I improve my strike rate of having these three coexist at the same time.
Brilliant. Absolutely. It's almost like a strategy.
Yeah?
It's almost like a strategy for a leader to think about how often can I create a environment where all of these three. And actually, Nitin, as you were explaining this, I I try and run this equation. Even now, let's say last 5 years, last 10 years, most of the stories that we end up admiring as an organization who have achieved. It could be in tech, product, any other domain. Actually, as I think about it, these three seem to very, very naturally apply. And they seem like, yeah, they are ingredients of, yeah, amazing. That takes me to, let's say, another, uh, the segues into the role of culture in all of this. You talked about, having the right vision, which is, let's say, collectively inspiring and individually relatable. And also this thing about the safety net in terms of psychological safety that one feels of, having a opportunity to take a shot without really worrying. But if we were to sort of extend that into how should organizations, or how have you seen organization think about and build and, you know, um, build that thing called culture, however hard that is, and also maybe if you have a word or two of how you see that in an environment which is so fast changing today. And every time there is one statistic, Nitin, that always runs in my head is the average lifespan of a company
Getting shorter and shorter.
is getting shorter and shorter and shorter every single day. So the time that you have, that you had back in 1960s versus in 2025 is so much less. So
So that's hard. So I'm saying I'm lucky I'm finishing my executive career just now. I'm not having to do it all over again.
no, but so much of what you've been able to do would, yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I think culture is probably uh, the differentiator. And everyone said it, many people have talked about it. There's that famous quote from Drucker. It says,
Breakfast.
culture,
Yeah.
culture would eat strategy for breakfast. We all heard that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but the real question is, what is this culture and what is that right culture? And sometimes we all have these probably misconceptions of what a good culture is. And I have now come to the conclusion that there is no one culture which is right for, there's no good culture, bad culture. It depends. And I'll make a very extreme example to.
Mm-hmm.
So, normally we would say a culture where there is openness, where people have a voice, if you can debate things. I would say it's a wonderful culture to
Yeah.
have, non hierarchical.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a wonderful culture.
Yeah.
Probably true in many cases, but what if you were an army? Yeah. In an army, you do want a line of command,
Yeah.
clear line of command.
Yeah.
You do want a situation uh, mi- where you value
Yeah.
meticulously following orders. You value not debating things to death. You value implicit trust. When somebody says something, I will go and do it. I won't keep debating it.
No questions asked.
So the former culture that I described might be right in many places, but would be wholly inappropriate in the context of war.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I take this extreme example, but there will be other examples I give. So if you were to take a retail, take Walmart.
Mm.
Hmm?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Walmart's core proposition is around cost leadership. Yeah, that's the reason by which they're going to get customers to keep coming in and get the widest assortment at the lowest prices. If that's what you want a culture which will amplify that strategy. So I keep saying the right culture for you is a culture that is congruent with your strategy and in fact give your strategy the best chance to succeed.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So therefore, if that's your proposition, then what culture do you need? You need a frugal culture, a thrifty culture. That's what you need. And then you have to live with the consequences of that culture. So the people who join Walmart don't expect glitzy offices and the sorts of things that you would see elsewhere.
Yeah.
And those who want that can go there.
Yeah.
But Walmart makes a choice. This is who we are. This is why we exist. This is our proposition. That's our strategy to win. The culture which I build has to be consistent with that and amplify that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the other example, if you're Apple, now is cost not important to Apple? Of course, it's important to anyone. But is cost the most important aspect of Apple? No, innovation maybe.
Yeah.
So Apple cannot create, it doesn't mean cost is not important, but
Yeah.
Apple's culture cannot be the thrifty, frugal culture sitting in some warehouse somewhere in back. No, it cannot be because they value something else. That's the driver of their success.
Yeah.
So using these examples to say the first reason, how do you get it right, I would say is ensure absolute consistency with your strategy. Such that it will amplify and not, there's no vanilla good culture that you can create.
Yeah.
Does that make
Yeah, absolutely. But one question though, Nitin, that and not like in infrequent time intervals, but let's say my long-term strategy is shifting a little bit, not the short-term one,
Yeah.
like 4 quarters. I'm not talking about that. Many folks I have seen get stuck with this thing called culture that becomes rigid forever. But there are some who remain open to changes at the edges. Certain things which are core part of the culture, like, things like integrity and, respect, and they I think are like can't change ever. But how do you recommend? Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, it's a challenge. It's never easy. I'm saying change is never
Right.
comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
As someone said, if you find change uncomfortable, wait till you encounter irrelevance.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So better accept that there are things that you would need to change.
Right.
Otherwise you'll get fossilized and become irrelevant. But it's hard. And I think you just have to go through a conscious process of being outward looking in terms of what is it? Why do you exist? What's the world like? And go through that exercise in terms of what's still working for you? What should you build on? What are detractors that you have to shed? They've had their useful life. And some elements will undergo change. Some core values probably may be intact, but the cultural manifestation, expression of that will undergo a change as the world outside us changes and needs to. And one of the reasons most companies, what you mentioned right at the beginning, the lifespan of companies is coming down is because organizations don't change fast enough as the external world is changing.